There have been 6 members of staff full-time who have been at Swavesey. The context of that is that over a period of the last 5 years, we have been working in schools in a whole range of different situations. We kind of call it pimping, which is kind of an interesting idea. But to give you an example, the year before last, we generated probably, conservatively, about £180,000 through external work where members of the leadership team were working at other schools. Now, all of that is fine, and other members of staff, that's fine. But in a sense, there is no hard-nosed accountability to those situations. So if you go into a school and it's in gaining ground situation or a rational school, you can say, you can identify the issues, whether the advice that you give is taken or whether the advice you give is right or wrong, you kind of walk away from that situation. And so we got to the position where we were saying, actually, in the right school situation, and this is the one, this is what we want to do. We want to stop the ad hoc, and we want to have clear accountability for what we are responsible for, and that in itself gives stability to Swavesey. So behind the 6 members of staff who were at Alton Longville during the past year, you had a number of members of staff at Swavesey who stepped up and have been at all levels within the institution who've been on temporary contracts. Now, as we move to Academy in terms of they will move on to permanent contracts, and you can see how it's kind of providing those opportunities. Ofsted came in January. Bizarre that they should come into a school, bottom really 1% after the last 3 years. What are they going to tell us? They're going to tell us it's shocking and it's going to go into a category, and we're going to turn around and say, that is why we are here, and that is why the solution will be an academy. But once the inspector's there, he's got to go through the judgment. And we were very pleased with what he struggled, because clearly, given the data, he was going to put us into a category. What's in it for Swavesey? The one that I've missed off there is this first one about hard-nosed accountability and also the stability that sort of comes with it. But certainly in terms of recruitment and retention of staff, I could give a plethora of examples where that has happened. In terms of both within Swavesey, within Alton Longville, and also in terms of external recruitment to either or both schools. If you want to talk about sort of contract things in a moment, in terms of Q&A, that's absolutely fine. Second one is around economies of scale. We have one business manager across the 2 schools. So effectively, it costs us half, it costs them half. Yes, there's a little bit of backfilling in terms of administrative support, but that's a net saving. We recently appointed an ICT network manager to work across the 2 schools. The feel that we got was fantastic, and it was particularly good to be at Alton Longville, which is a school in terms of confidence where they feel that they're at the bottom of the pile, and they've got, I can't give you the names, but you've got people who are network managers in either existing federations or groups of schools or high-performing schools coming wanting to work within their school. And again, all of that just gives confidence as you go through. The other thing is the challenge to Swavesey. One of our issues is inevitably one of potential complacency. Either people, as an institution on its own, what would happen typically in a situation like Swavesey? A substantial number of staff would leave on promotions elsewhere. That's what happens. The second one is that people just stay there because they know what works and so on. The moment you think you know what works is the moment and the time that it starts to dip. And so whether it's to do with the benchmarking visits that we do, so all of our staff on a training day on Friday, all of our teaching staff will be visiting outstanding schools across the country. We don't claim to have many of the answers. All we've done is gone elsewhere and picked them up. But certainly Ofsted, when looking at it, was saying the impact of this partnership is that it is energising the school in a whole range of different ways. So for a large number of staff at Swavesey, it doesn't touch them at all. Some of them it's touched because they've got promotions internally through this model, and others, if they want to, have had the opportunity to work across. So as I say, this is what we're moving forward to now. We're on this contract, and because it was working and people could see it was having an impact, the critical question was, how long are you going to be around as a school? You know, and we made it very clear that this is a partnership between schools rather than Mark being some superhead going in. He is outstanding, but as I say, it's only with the capacity of people around to be working with him that he's been able to achieve what he's currently achieving and what will move on. Academy status for us was the mechanism by which we said the relationship between the two schools is permanent, and therefore it is a sponsored academy in the old sense rather than a converter. And the final diagram I'll just show you is the model. So it is a multi-academy trust that we've established, and what we have is that the trust is really responsible for the long-term. It is the employer of all the staff. Okay, and it will be in due course as Alton Longville becomes Neame Park Academy. But the trust is very clear that it is about the long-term strategic vision. We haven't got a single governing body across the two schools, and in fact for Swavesey, having a local governing body will actually provide a greater focus on Swavesey rather than that governing body trying to look at work with other schools and all of that sort of thing. And then you've got the leadership team. The leadership team at Swavesey, and this will be true of Neame Park in due course, all of them, as part of their contract, it says very clearly now that, not quite at the drop of a hat, but they will be expected at some point to be working in other schools. Okay? Because in terms of their best development, in terms of what is right for Swavesey, and in terms of them going off, working somewhere else and coming back with new ideas and so on, but also in terms of being part of what is this wider organisation. I think what's interesting is you've got in the middle just two executive committees in terms of finance and personnel, and then at local government level you've got two key committees, achievement inclusion and ethos and standards. And so really what you'll be able to say to in the governing bodies of the two local governing bodies will be, yeah, clearly there are core policies for personnel are the same across the two organisations. We have the same financial systems, we have one business manager. Why is it we would duplicate some of those processes? It doesn't make sense. And so what we will have is, it will happen to be the chair of personnel from Swavesey with representation from both of the local governing bodies, including the principals, as well as the same for finance. But really where the important stuff is done to support and focus on the individual schools will be around the local governing bodies. Mark Woods, and I'll finish on this, Mark Woods is I think he was on London Road, the terrace at the Posh, from about the age of 8, and he still stands there every week. One of the real coups for us in terms of helping a school to develop confidence and people wanting to go there is that we have developed a partnership with Peterborough United Football Club, who are in our catchment. So you've got this great Neame Park, which is a great facility for us in terms of outdoor pursuits. Then you've got Peterborough United Football Club. Their youth team, we've got 15 of their youth team members are moving to us in September, and that will be the model for future. So in year 9 going into 10, in the future when it's established, the youth team will move to our school, and in terms of their 4 options, 2 of them would be to do with their sports training. So we will block the timetable, Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon, we will have those students. Now again, in terms of how the school feels about having such strong role models within the school, and the other thing we've done is we've persuaded Peterborough United to move their training facility and their first team training ground to half of our school pitch. It was great that they were promoted to the championship. So in terms of what we're looking at here, yes, there is the institutional capacity that comes from Swavesey, but it is by no means a one-way journey. Tomorrow we have 2 members of staff from Alton Longville who will be doing observations all day in Swavesey. In many ways, probably one of the best teaching practitioners across the 2 schools is somebody that is in Alton Longville who will be coming tomorrow to work with our staff. And again, for us it's a good benchmark. Prior to Ofsted coming to us, in March, they hadn't been since 2006, we were saying, well, what did Ofsted think in these situations? She's saying, well actually we've had Ofsted every year for about the last 5 years. We'll tell you what Ofsted actually want. And so all of those things are constantly challenging both Swavesey as well as supporting the school in developing its own identity.